All right, the first system or portion of the house we're going to talk about is the frame. What mostly makes up most residential homes is wood studs, 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x8s. You have posts, you have beams, you have parallel beams. Every builder's a little different. Every municipality's a little different. So here in Houston, and we're actually in the city limits of Katy in a neighborhood, new construction neighborhood named Cane Island. And I'm standing in the middle of a Perry construction new home. The components of the frame, and we're going to use this fireplace as a simple, and I'll kind of point to some other ones, but 2x4 or 2x6 construction. It consists of some pressure treated areas, these green ones like your base plate, sill plate. That's the board that runs along the base or side of the walls, okay? They run the exterior, they run interior walls. This builder's using pressure treated, but that green actually is a boracic acid treatment. So it actually is also pest control for them. This is an example of a header. You have headers over doorways, over large openings like windows and doors. This is a huge example of one. This is a paralleling beam. This is a 3-panel slider door, and that beam is being supported by wall studs. These are 2x6 exterior wall studs on this home, and you'll see two followed by a third. This third one here is called a king stud. It actually goes from the base plate all the way to what they call the top plate. And that is carrying the load of the roof sitting on it. And then these are the jack studs or whatever they call. They are carrying the load of that beam, which is supporting this huge opening for these doors. And these, man-made beams are pretty expensive. One of the reasons new construction can cost a little bit more, but instead of putting 6 or 8 2x8s or 10s to make these huge things, they use these engineered beams to carry a higher load. Some other parts of framing in residential construction consists of, let's see, what did we talk about? We talked about the top plate, runs the top of the wall frame, the base plate running the bottom, obviously. We talked about a header. We also have things like the cripple studs. Here's a good one. So over these doorways and openings at windows, doors, or like here again at the fireplace, you'll have these wood pieces that connect the top and the bottom plate, especially over doors and windows. It's not just there for them to nail into the sheetrock so they have a place to nail it to. It's there to help carry that load space so there's no dipping or sagging. Corner studs are basically interior wall stud, the end that connects it to the exterior or adjacent wall. Again, they go top to bottom. Some of the other components of a frame that we should really cover besides the corner stud there, we're going to talk about blocking. So this home's a big one-story. You have a high plate height. We're going 8, 10, 12, we're going 10 or 12 feet, and then it vaults up. So there isn't necessarily fire blocking in this main area, but here in the entryway, you'll clearly see where they blocked the frame. In between each stud, you'll see little pieces of 2x4 that are basically jammed in there. And then this builder's also using that orange foam seal, not just as a sealant on the frame for air movement, but that orange indicates that it is fire rated foam, so it has a much longer burn rate. Okay. Bracing, again, on a one-story home, this one doesn't have a lot of horizontal bracing, but it does have interior walls that are actually shear walls. They have OSB plywood on an interior wall between the kitchen and this game room that this is designed as bracing to prevent the frame from going side to side, because the weight's pushing it down. This prevents it from moving sideways. And then some other things that generally go into framing, you'll see areas for mechanical components. Normally on a 2-story, you'll see mechanical chases. You'll see like an errant square in the corner of a room, and it's like, why is that there? It's so they can run ductwork or plumbing or some kind of utility component vertically. But on a 1-story, you generally don't have those. But like, here's a good example of, venting to the outside on this frame. They had to box that out prior to sheetrock and cabinets, but that utility component, normally if that wall wasn't thick enough, they would have to kind of fur it out or fatten it up to make sure it was flush. These are many of the components of a frame in a home. A few other ones that will lead us into the next portion of the series, which is a roof. If you look straight up here, we have this huge man-made parallam structural beam that is basically carrying the entire roof load from one end of the family room all the way to the other end of the kitchen. They have boxed around or furred out around that beam, and you can see where they dropped electrical into it because they can't go through that structural beam or it will lose its integrity. So they actually boxed around it so they could get electrical in those areas for future, I'm going to say, fan in the family room and probably a hanging light over that island. So this is a good start for the components of a frame. In the next portion, you'll hear me talking about the roofing system of a home.